We're less than a month away from March Madness as college basketball teams are beginning their push to the postseason. Welcome into episode 9 of Courtside Chronicles. I'm Caleb Nixon, your host. This week we are joined by Temple men's basketball head coach Adam Fisher. The Owls are currently competing atop the American Conference with a 7-3 record. That is just one game behind Tulsa, who is in first. These teams are preparing for the American tournament that takes place in early March, with the winner earning an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. We talk with Fisher about what it will take to earn that bid and how Temple is preparing for postseason play.
We welcome in Temple men's basketball head coach now, Adam Fisher. We appreciate you for joining us today to talk a little bit about Temple men's basketball in the season that you guys are having. Walk us through what the first 22 games have been like for you guys, 14-8 so far. What have you liked from your team, and what are some of the improvements that you've seen over those first 22 games?
No, thanks for having me, Caleb. It's been a roller coaster. There's been some good, some bad, and you learn from each one. I think we had some difficulties. We had a tournament in Florida. We didn't play our best down there, and we started. We were 4-5, and kind of lost a tough one to St. Joe's at the buzzer. Then from there, went on to win 7 straight. Then we had 2 tough games, with Memphis on the road and FAU at home, dropped those and came back, responded the right way. And then, we've done some good stuff. We've had some tough losses that could have gone either way, but we're learning from each one. And that's our goals. We've done this with, really 11 scholarship players for the whole season. So I'm proud of our guys being ready at all times. So, in the American, each night's a battle, and, we got to keep getting better with each game.
You talk about that 4-5 start. What was it that you say to your guys? What's that message you give to your guys when you guys arrive back from that trip to Florida? Because clearly it sparked some momentum to get some wins in that 7 straight. What do you kind of say to your guys to motivate them after that tough loss at the buzzer, like you said?
Yeah, the loss of the buzzer came to St. Joe's. So, excuse me. After we got back from that trip, you get back, you play 3 games in 3 days, which is really hard in Florida. We weren't guarding the way we wanted to. I thought we started the year pretty good, 3-1 with 1 loss to an ACC school. So then you drop 2 in Florida, you come back, you got to go at Villanova, who I think is top 25 in the country. Kevin Willard's doing a great job. And then you have another Big 5 game versus St. Joe's. But our message was the game at versus St. Joe's wasn't going to define our season. That shot, a step back 3 for the win. We guarded it pretty well, but we've got to learn from it, get better. And I think our guys just really responded and stayed together and stuck together during that. And, we faced some adversity, and I think being together is something that our team preaches. And I think that game brought us a little bit closer together.
Talk a little bit about, you mentioned AAC. I think that was Boston College, correct?
Yeah,
Just
Boston College. Yep.
and then you go and play Minnesota, or excuse me, Villanova, like you said. I wanted to ask about those non-conference games and how important do you think those are when a team in the AAC is getting ready for conference play to get into the thick of that schedule? How important is it to you to schedule some of those tougher non-conference games to prepare your guys?
Yeah, we'd love to schedule some more. I think the more we could get in the area, you look within a 3-hour distance from Temple, any of the Power Fours, we've tried to reach out and schedule and, get those teams on our schedule. We think it helps them and helps us. But no, we've had some really good home and homes that just finished up. We had a home and home with Hofstra, which I think is a really good team. Home and home at Davidson. We had to go at Davidson this year. We had Boston College. This past year we had Princeton, so we'll return that game next year at Princeton, which will be a really tough environment to go play in. But no, we would love to do home and homes with local teams again within 3-4 hour driving distance of Temple. We'd be all for it.
What was that environment like? I think it was at Villanova, correct?
Yeah, at Villanova was part of the Big 5.
Right.
Challenging environment. We were down
Yeah.
1.5. We played, I thought, really well. And they're really a good team, can really score the ball. And then about probably the last 6-7 minutes is when they really separated that game. But I thought we did some really good stuff. We learned from it. They did some things defensively that we hadn't seen as much, so we got more comfortable in that area. But like I said, that's a tough environment to go play in.
Definitely. And again, just watching them so far this college basketball season, you can see they're one of those top 25 teams, it feels like, in the Premier, Villanova and Kevin Willard, what he's doing. But you talk about the response from your guys. Now you're into AAC play, 6-3 so far. You've met a couple of the teams in the top or the upper half of the conference. What have you liked so far from the guys? What has stood out in terms of improvement in the first 9 games here of AAC play?
I think we've competed at a high level. You play a South Florida team who's averaging 90 plus points a game, and you're on national TV, and it's our version of the whiteout game here, right, on a Saturday night. Um, after losing a tough game to Charlotte where they tied it at the buzzer, our response was, I thought we played hard, we rebounded. I thought our attention to detail was much better in that game. So that was a big positive after having a tough loss earlier in the week. I think to be really good, you got to win at home. We were 12-2 last year overall at home. This year in league play, we have lost 2 games at home, so we talk about protecting home court. And then a big thing for us was you got to steal some on the road. It's really hard to win on the road, and we've won 3 out of 4 of our league games on the road. Um, so we know that that's a challenge to go on the road and win. And look, we got a tough slate coming up. We go at East Carolina Saturday, which is a challenging place for us to play, and we know they got the leading scorer in the league. So our goal is just to keep getting better as a group. Like everybody in the country, we got a brand new team. So I think your team takes some time to gel, and the teams that can gel quicker. And probably have more success. So we're trying to get that gel together. I think we've seen it, and expecting a great couple games here to start February.
Seniors that are playing very well for you at Darian Ford, I think is that pronunciation correct?
Yep.
And then Jordan Mason and two guys that, with the wild transfer portal now, but those are two guys that you guys brought in this offseason and they were previously, if I'm not mistaken, was it UIC and Arkansas State?
Yep. Correct.
So
Yeah.
two smaller schools and now here they are just putting it on display for Temple. What have you seen from them in terms of both their play and their leadership as seniors?
Yeah, both have been fantastic just to have in your program. They're just great young men. They come from great families. Look, they're older guys that have been through college basketball. Jordan Mason's the first real true point guard we've had since I've been here at Temple. His ability to get guys open shots and know when to take his shots and his size, he's been able to knock down huge shots for us. He's from Texas. We had two game road trip in Texas. He was phenomenal. I hope his family comes to every game because that was fun for him. And then Darian Ford, a guy, he's only, I think his career high, he probably average was 8.5 points a game. And now he's up to 18 plus a game. I think we just try to give our guys the confidence to play free. You're not going to come out for missing a shot or having a turnover. It's the effort and energy. We don't want to coach that. And I think those older guys get that, and they've been terrific additions for us.
Well, look, you talk about confidence and those guys also instilling confidence in their teammates. Aiden Tobiasen is also a perfect example of that. He was in your program freshman and sophomore year, but he went from averaging just under 5 points per game last year to now 14 and around 15 points per game this season. How have you seen him take that such a massive jump in just 1 year span as a 20-year-old?
I think it's important he stayed, right? And in this world of college basketball, when you're moving school to school, you have to get comfortable with a lot of things. You have to get comfortable with a new environment. Maybe it's a new, right, academic schedule. It's new coaching staff, new teammates. And with Aiden staying, a lot of those factors were comfortable for him. He could really focus on his game this summer. And a great credit to our staff. I think they do a great job with player development. I think you look now, we have 4 starters who are playing for us, including Gavin Griffiths, who have had career numbers across the board in percentages and assists, rebounds, and you name it. And I think it's, our staff and my assistant coaches do an amazing job of getting guys better. And not just at the beginning of the year, but like throughout the season, working with them. And, the older guys, you can do it on the court, but then it's also a lot of film review. So Aiden's been terrific. We told him this summer, you're going to make a huge jump. It's probably a jump 5 years ago you make from sophomore to junior, the way that college basketball is. We said, hey, you're going to make that jump now as a freshman to a sophomore. And he does some incredible things. He's also learning some stuff. We watched film the other day, and sometimes you forget he's only a sophomore. But really, really proud of him. He really works on his craft, and you're seeing it now in games.
I love to go into the details of film scouting and film reviewing for these players. Walk me through just a little bit, touch on kind of what that process looks like for you guys. Do these players sit down with assistant coaches? Do you guys sit down individually with you? What does that process look like here at Temple, and how does that propel these players to another level?
Yeah, we've gone more more film this year than we ever have. We've had a bunch of injuries and guys nicked up, so we've gone a lot more with mental preparation. So we've done a lot of that. Um, we have different film groups with our assistants, so they take individual guys, so they'll do that. We have team film sessions. We try to keep short, but do multiple of them so that they're fresh. And then I watch with, there's certain guys I watch with. I spend a lot of time on our offense. We have a defensive coordinator too, so I do all our offensive stuff. So I'll watch a little bit with specific guys. Hey, let's look for this. Or if somebody has an uncharacteristic game, I try to watch with that person and say, hey, let's figure out why. Like you're not a guy that turns it over, but you had six in this game. What were you seeing? What was hard for you? And I think it's, we grade shots on not the result. There's some games that we've missed some wide open shots, and that's a great shot for our team. We tell our guys like this is a great shot. Shoot it 10 out of 10 times. Hey, this is not a good shot. You made it, but there's two guys on you. The degree of difficulty is really hard. Like maybe if it's the end of a shot clock, okay, but there's 18 on the clock. You don't need four hands contesting it, even though you make it. So again, we grade it more on the quality of the shot. Did we get a paint touch, kick out? And then was it contested, uncontested? Was there an extra pass to be made or not? So it's not the specific result, did it go in or not for us that we look at.
It's awesome. And you talk a little bit about your philosophy. I've spoken with a couple people on this show about the philosophy of, not being hard on guys for shot selection and maybe more so grading shot quality, but more so instilling that confidence in them. Just keep letting it fly, trust the work that you put in. Where and why do you think that's such a philosophy that you continue embracing and giving to your players?
I think you get 31 opportunities a year, right? And we tell our guys all the time, you probably spend 325 days working on your craft for these 31 opportunities. To me, you have to play with the utmost confidence those 31 nights. And if you're thinking I might come out if I miss this, or like you're not going to be at your best. So again, you get 31 times to go do it. There's 360, you prepare 325 days for those. You got to trust the work you put in. And I think if you put in the right work and the meaningful work, the results will come. So that's where we try to make practice a little bit more difficult. We're harder in the off season. We do a bunch of drills where we can test, when wide open shots, fly at guys so that they get used to that comfort level. But I think you have to play with confidence in the game.
Absolutely. 6-3 start in the AAC again. What is it that you're looking for here in the back half of the season? I know you mentioned some tough games coming up, but what is it that you guys are striving for, and what's that goal for you guys as you enter postseason play?
Look, we take the 1-0 approach, right? It's all one game at a time, and each game plan's different. Then we totally regroup. After each game, we totally regroup. Hey, what do we have to do? And that's got to be our mentality. Is we've got to have a 1-0 approach, and then our theme for the year is 15 beats 5. And we think you're allowed 15 scholarships in men's basketball. So if our 15, and that includes maybe walk-ons who don't get in the game, but they help you prepare the right way. If we can have all 15 on the same page, we feel like we can go compete against anybody's 5. But if you have 13 or 12 and not some guys at the end of the bench aren't bought in, it's hard to win. So we really believe in 15 beats 5. And the other night we have a guy who was 1 for 6 from the foul line, and he goes and makes two on national TV to take the lead, 30 seconds left in the game, has a tip in to win it, a career high 4 points. That's 15 beats 5. He stayed ready. If you think you just have to get ready and you can turn on a switch, it doesn't happen. But he was totally locked in. He played the last 5 minutes of the game, Mohammed Keita, and was great for us. So that's our message is 15 beats 5. You need everybody in your program on the same page. And right now, I think the days of retiring jerseys are going to be done. I think you used to want to retire jerseys. They spent 4 years there. They're all-time leading scorer, the all-time leading rebounder. But now guys, they move often so much. The banners that stay are the team banners. Those are the ones that aren't going anywhere. So we really believe in, hey, we got to have team success. That'll lead to your individual success. So one game at a time, that's our mentality. You can't get too high or too low. You lose a game, we move on. You win a game, you got to move on. And that's been our mentality this year.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I do want to ask a little bit about the state of college basketball and just to get your brief thoughts. And, I talked with Scott Parrott earlier this year and we just, spoke about some of the transfers, portal rules, and some of these, guys that have been in the NBA, maybe not signed professional contracts and came back. But I'm just curious to get your thoughts, a guy that's been around college basketball for a long time, the state of college basketball and what you think could potentially be improved.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I even understand all the rules in terms of this stuff and adding guys. Look, you got to adapt. And for us, we have to adapt to NIL. We've been behind in that area, so it's an area we're trying to catch up in. But there, so much has changed, and I think I think as long as all the coaches have a full understanding for what the rules are, if you had asked me this summer, a guy that could be in a G League, could play in a college, but I didn't think that was possible. So I got to do a better job of learning what are the rules and figuring that out. But look, change is coming. Every coach is going to want to play within the rules to do what's best for their team. So I don't get mad at coaches that do that if it's within the rules. But for us, our mindset is, hey, these are the guys that we've got with us. Let's go make the best of it for however long they're with us, and then we regroup at the end of the year.
The want to know mentality. I always love that within teams. So let me ask you here, last one. You look at this group and you talk about the group of guys that you have, the gritty guys that you have in your locker room. Where does this one compare for you so far in teams that you've coached before, and how special do you think this group can be here as Temple continues this season?
Yeah, I think each team has its own identity that you have, and this team is really close. I think this group is closely knit. They hang out off the court a lot. So my, my excitement's for them. I've been lucky. I've been around some great programs and gotten to do some special things and big wins and NCAA tournaments, and so grateful for those coaches. My excitement now is seeing their excitement after a big game and trying to get them to places they've never been. So, for us, our focus is on let's have a great practice today. We take tomorrow off, then we're back into our normal routine, prep, play. And I think if you can keep that mindset, then you have to be throughout the season. We don't practice harder after a loss. We don't practice harder after a win. We try to be as consistent as we can be. And I think that consistency really helps you throughout the year. So as boring of an answer it is, our only goal is having a great practice today.
Temple has 8 games remaining, including a regular season finale against top-seeded Tulsa. That could decide who will be the #1 seed entering the American tournament. Reporting in studio for Courtside Chronicles, I'm Caleb Nixon.